Now that you have access to MYOB, we'll focus on what's inside MYOB and how you can navigate it. When you first open MYOB, the first thing you'll always see is the Command Center. What is the Command Center? Basically, it's a function that lets you easily navigate all the features of your MYOB file. The Command Center will vary depending on what kind of account right you're using. Some of these things you might not see in your MYOB, and there might be some things in your MYOB that you don't see here. For reference, this MYOB is Account Right Plus, which is why it has time and billing, payroll, and inventory. Some MYOB files will only have accounts, banking, and purchases. If they add on payroll, they could also add on time and billing. The Command Center is where you can see all the functions and all the modules in your MYOB. When we say module, it's like banking. That's a banking module. Under the banking module, you'll see spend money, receive money, bank fees, bank register, all of those things you can find in the banking module. First, we'll go through the toolbars at the top and what you can see there. We'll go through some of them more specifically than others because most of the time you'll need to know what those settings mean when using your MYOB. In your toolbar, first you can see File. You can open a new MYOB file. If you have multiple company files, you can open another company file. Just ensure that you cannot actually open two company files in one Account Right desktop at the same time. If you want to access another company file, you would need to close the other one. New is if you want to create another company file. Open is if you want to open another company file that you have linked with your email address. Then, if you want to close the window, migrate custom forms, back up your MYOB, you can see it in here as well. If you want to restore an older version of your MYOB, you can also do that. The close of financial year, we will tackle this almost at the end of the course. Under Edit, when you have a module open, usually the edit functions will be available. Under Lists, this is where we can see our accounts, our general ledger accounts. This is where we can see our cards, our suppliers, customers, employees. You'll see our activities if you have any activities listed. Items. If you're using MYOB for inventory, this is where you can find items. Jobs. This is where we use job codes for our projects. Cost centers. If you have multiple cost centers, we can look through those later. We'll discuss shortly what cost centers mean. This is also where you'll see your tax codes, where you can create multiple tax codes if necessary. Some of the payroll categories or information that you'll need when you're running payroll, we'll go through those specifically later. Custom lists and custom names, you can create those if needed. You can find them under Lists. Under Command Center, you can basically see a more listed down view of everything in the Command Center. Under Setup, we will go through some of the things under Setup later, but basically when you open your first MYOB file, you'll need to set it up. And this is a helpful module that will help you set up the backbone or the settings of your MYOB. This is also a great way for you to understand how MYOB runs in the background. Under Reports, this is where you can index the reports. When you click this, it will give you all the reporting functions that MYOB can do and can help you with. When you click Windows, basically what Windows does is if you have multiple modules open, you can rearrange them in a tile, in a cascade, or arrange icons. You can do that. Let's say, for example, when you have Spend Money open, and let's say you also have Receive Money open. If you have a very small screen and you can't click those because they're hidden at the back, you can go to Windows and click them here. Command Center, so the Command Center will pop up in front, or the Spend Money function, it will pop up in front. You can also arrange them in tiles, arrange them in cascades, or arrange them in different icons. You can do that in MYOB. Services is where we can find other services that MYOB provides. We advise that only the administrator accesses services because MYOB will only deal with the administrator or the owner of the account. Also, if you need help, There are help and help centers, videos, and trainings that MYOB provides.